Hey you guys, what's up? I am back with a full workout for my Workout Wednesday post. Today I am going to walk you guys through a full back and bicep movement with a little bit of abs at the end as well. I always start my back day with some sort of body weight pull-up. Here I am doing negatives for 3 sets of 5. As you can see towards the end, I get a little bit fatigued and can't hold myself up at the top for as long as I normally can, but that's okay with me as long as I'm controlling the movement as much as I can on the way down. And that assures that I am doing this movement correctly and getting all the benefits out of negative pull-ups. So now I'm going into the first weighted movement of my workout, which is a lat pull down. So my gym does not have typical lat pull down equipment, but we do have a lot of cable towers. So what I do instead of sitting on the normal bench is I sit on the ground and I attach 2 handles to the cable and use that as a close grip lat pull down. And I find that doing this movement in this position actually forces me to engage my core because I'm not able to use the leverage of typically having your knees underneath the bar to hold your body down available. Instead, I have to keep my body stable and my legs down just by forcing them down on my own. So as you can see here, I'm doing these lat pull downs. I'm doing 4 sets of 12 to 15, and I am really squeezing my back at the bottom, controlling the movement, not rushing through each rep. After my lat pull down, I moved to seated cable rows, and this time I did move a bench over to the cable tower in order to really get the right movement. Otherwise, my elbows usually like bump into my knees and it's a little bit awkward. But here you can see that I'm really pulling the weight all the way back and pretending that I'm wrapping my elbows around my back. I find that back is one of the harder muscle groups to find a mind-muscle connection with. So I like to use cues like thinking about wrapping my elbows behind my back as a way to engage my muscles. I performed this movement for 10 to 12 reps for 4 sets total. Now I'm moving on to a unilateral movement, which means I'm doing one arm at a time, and these are bent over dumbbell rows. I am using the bench as support. You can also do this movement without the bench and just bend over at the hips, but today I decided to use the bench, and with this movement I like to think about pulling the dumbbell up to my hips, not just straight up and down. I performed this movement for 4 sets of 10 to 12 reps on each arm. My last back exercise was a lat pullover using the cable, and here I like to stagger my feet to take a little bit of strain off my lower back and bending over at the waist a little bit because that just is what is comfortable for me. I finish off my back and bicep day before abs with a bicep superset. So I don't target biceps as much because I'm already indirectly using them so much during my back movements. So I only do 1 or 2 isolation movements, and here I'm doing a superset, so 2 movements back to back with no rest in between. I just performed 10 to 12 hammer curls with the dumbbells, and now I'm doing 10 to 12 cable preacher curls. I kind of had to be creative on how I set this machine up, but if your gym has a preacher curl machine, then you can just use dumbbells or a barbell with that. I do like using cables for bicep movements because it keeps a constant tension on your muscles that sometimes barbells and dumbbells don't give you. Lastly, I did an ab circuit as a finisher for my workout. So I did 3 movements back to back, no rest in between, and repeated it 3 times without resting in between each set as well. So the first one I'm doing here is a weighted like crunch type thing. I wouldn't call it a V-up because I do bend my knees, but I'm not letting my feet touch the ground in between movements, and I'm holding a dumbbell in my hand to add intensity to this movement. If you are a beginner, I would suggest not using a weight and also putting your feet down in between each rep. Something really important for that movement as well is making sure that your lower back stays pressed into the mat. As for all ab movements, that's something that is really important because it takes the strain out of your lower back and forces you to engage your abs even more. So here I am doing reverse crunches, and I am lifting my hips up at the top by squeezing in my abs, not using the momentum of the swing of my legs, but actually contracting my abs to pull my hips up off the mat. This last movement looks kind of silly, but let me tell you, it is an ab killer. So I start with sitting with my knees close to my chest and bouncing my heels up and down, not touching the mat, but getting just close enough. And these are tiny, tiny movements. And then I am going to pull my knees out a little bit farther so that I am leaning back, and I am doing the same movement, just a little bit more spread out. And then the last variation is being as flat as possible and bouncing my heels. I'm not trying to bounce my upper body, but it's just kind of going with the movement, and my abs were on fire. I hope that you guys enjoyed this workout, and thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment below if you decide to give it a try. See you in my next video.